And just like that, we're back to talk about another dub. It's getting kind of boring talking about all these wins and all this crazy shit. We put up 170 points or something in the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're rolling. It wasn't hard to roll the Titans. We did what we thought we all should have done to the Titans, but man, that was fun to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was almost a game of who else is going to throw a touchdown besides Jared Goff, right? I mean, start keeping track of all these extra players who are throwing touchdowns. Who's throwing touchdowns to Jared Goff? Ben Johnson looked like he was just having a ball out there. It got to the point where you kind of felt bad for the Titans because the field position that we got, we were averaging, I think, on our own, 48 or it wasn't even fair. I mean, every time we got the ball, 30, 40 yards to go for the end zone. So what was it, 7 for 7 in red zone or 5 for 5 in red zone? Every single unit did something, including special teams.
Well, Khalif was, I think I heard Campbell say, handing out those game balls, he was 19 yards short of the NFL punt return record, the yardage record, 19 yards.
I called it a couple of weeks ago where this guy just was ready to do something. And I didn't think it was going to be this. I thought for sure he'd have kind of like a, 112 yard and a touchdown game, traditional slot receiver role. But yeah, like you said, a couple of yards away from a record. I've lost count at how many, franchise records we've set this season with wins and back-to-back wins. And God, look at our running backs, man. They said when Gibbs and Montgomery both score a touchdown in the game, we win. It's just guaranteed. So we even talked about it this earlier today. What really is to cover about this game? I mean, it was playing Madden on Pro.
I mean, it was fun to watch, just like the last few have been. I mean, they've all been pretty fun to watch.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, Hitch, you're right. Sorry if my excitement's not high because it was freaking awesome to watch. We were screaming, we were yelling, but it just kind of gets you thinking, right? Because now that we're 6-1, ranked number 1, that Tennessee game in my eyes was kind of what we needed to give the rest of the league as hey, I know you love Kansas City, but look what these Lions are going to do.
Yeah, we've been, I don't even want to say getting off to slow starts because we put the hammer down and don't look back and we score at will on the ground, in the air. The efficiency of the passing game, of the pass blocking, of the run game is out of this world. But 2 weeks in a row now, more so Minnesota, but even with the Titans, it was off to 14-14 and Mason Rudolph dropped some bombs on us, and then all of the sudden it's just punt return, huge punt return, huge punt return, just dropping bombs. And that run that Gibbs had up the sideline, have you ever seen a more true-to-life photo than the 8 Tennessee Titans chasing him while Dan Campbell is signaling touchdown from the sidelines? I mean, that summarizes all of it. And I read a few minutes ago, he hit 22.3 miles per hour on that run up the sideline, the touchdown run. Second fastest of the year, second only to that rookie wide receiver in Jacksonville from like LSU. I think his name is Thomas or something. I don't know. But
do me a favor right now. Look up Bijan Robinson's stats, because this is somebody who they told that when we went to the draft said this was going to be your record-breaking running back. He's going to change the franchise. I'm not hating on the guy. I'm not saying, the picks were wrong, or because, we did get a little bit of heat for getting Gibbs, but I just want to see where do they line up right now? Because I know Atlanta's winning.
These guys will forever be compared to each other, good, bad, or otherwise. This was a big topic of conversation on 97.1 just the other day on my ride home. And you can't say that Bijan's a bad player. He's a steady contributor. He's a good running back. He's in a timeshare, a little bit of a timeshare. But ask me who I would have or who I would pick, knowing now, if I had to build a franchise, it would be Gibbs all day. I'm going to give you some Bijan stats here. 2023, 214 carries, 976 yards, 14 shy of that 1,000, 4 TDs. This year, at what, the 7-week mark, 7 games in the books? 116 carries, 546 on the ground, the same average, 4.7, and 4 TDs. So he's on pace to outpace. He's outpacing what he did his rookie year.
So yeah, he's doing a great job. And you're right. It's one of those things where they'll always be compared to each other. But when you have runs that we've seen back to back 40 yards and 70 yards, that's hard to truly show different on the stat line, is why I love what we do, why I love who we draft, why I love what we're looking for. We're not looking for the easy pick. We're looking for... Nobody saw this coming with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I mean, Montgomery terrorized us as a Bear, but most Bear players back in the day, they would always... Them and a backup quarterback from the Packers would always have a franchise-level game on us. But you can't tell me that everybody else in the league said, this is what I want him to do, right? They kind of questioned it. They said Gibbs and Montgomery. I mean, it made sense from a speed and about, but look what you're seeing, man. Like, Montgomery is a beast beyond beast. Every game, nobody breaks this guy down. He just gets tired and falls into the end zone. That's how it happens with him. I mean, their styles are so completely different. And I'll be honest, I really thought we'd see Gibbs catch a lot more passes, more like an Alvin Kamara.
I think we all did.
That delayed handoff with him and those blocks that we're getting from our guards, holy shit, dude. It's impressive.
So listen to this. Last year's stats for Gibb, 2023 for Gibbs, 182 carries, 945 yards. Here's the difference. 5.2 yards per carry and 10 touchdowns. And this is just on the ground. This isn't through the air. This year, 92 carries, 591 yards, 6.4 yard average, and already 6 touchdowns. So they're both on this clip where they're improving over last year, but Gibbs is doing a lot more with less carries.
Great addition. I mean, let's just say it one more time before we move on to the next topic. I love what this running game can do. I love that we haven't even seen Craig Reynolds yet, because we know he's a great option. We know he can, when we call his name upon, when you see, and you're going to see it. Watch. You're going to see Ben Johnson start sneaking Craig Reynolds out there and doing weird things with Craig Reynolds. Like, we had our moment with Khalif Freeman. I think Craig Reynolds is going to get his moment. You're a big anything Reynolds fan. Right. Any Reynolds we have on the team, you've always been supportive of. And I don't know if you saw, but Josh Reynolds was shot twice leaving a strip club.
I think once in the back of the head, but I guess he's going to make a recovery, I guess.
Must have been at 22.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, so let's go on to the next topic of conversation. We've got a lot of trade speculation coming up. Let's be honest. We're nearing the deadline. There was an interview yesterday that I watched late night, Dan Campbell press conference. He, like a kid on Christmas, he just couldn't. He was trying to keep something in, but like kind of slowly leaking out some information that Mr. Holmes is up to something. What's your thoughts?
I personally think that that's Campbell trolling the media a little bit. I think it's hyperbole. I think it was one of those things said in jest, like I'm just not going to give it to you. I know what you're asking, and I'm not going to tell you kind of answer, but you never know. I've said to you last week, I've said it in conversation with other Lions fans. I think they'll do something. Would it surprise you at all if it is just not even the position that we're thinking of, or not even a name that we've heard before being floated in this conversation? I think that they might do something, but I just have no idea what that is.
You did mention to me that you think it might be offensive line. You said Brad might do some stuff and get an offensive lineman. Now, there was a outside linebacker DN from the Patriots that just got traded to the Chiefs.
Today?
We've got the Chiefs trading for DeAndre Hopkins. The Chiefs are what I would say who are on pace with to meet at the dance.
I feel like they're a very weak 6-0. They know that they're a weak 6-0.
And I think those trades that they made were a dead giveaway because they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins, who, I'm sorry, but it seems like from a Tennessee standpoint, Calvin Ridley still has a lot in the tank, and it seems like DeAndre Hopkins held him back. So he wanted to play for the Lions in free agency, and the Lions said no. D-Hop really hasn't done D-Hop things in a long time. Is this the weak move where the Chiefs know they have to do something? So let's trade with the Patriots. Let's trade with, get DeAndre Hopkins, and all he's going to do is sell jerseys, similar to the Davante Adams trade with the Jets. Like, come on, man. Give it up.
Well, the Jets were grasping at straws and trying to appease Aaron Rodgers, and everybody knew Davante wanted out. What they gave up for Davante, I thought, was probably pretty fair. I feel like the Chiefs, though, it's not apples to apples in this scenario. The Chiefs are decimated on offense. The couple of losses that the Chiefs have had on the offensive side of the ball, I think the only apples to apples comparison is how impactful that is to us losing Hutchinson. And I think the Chiefs going out and doing what they did is similar to what we might be looking at on defense, those type of players that we would bring in.
I just feel like, the Chiefs are kind of, when you're, I don't want to say reaching, but when you're when you're a team that's known for schematically doing weird things, not having to go out and pay certain wide receivers, and you can kind of take the Tom Brady approach where you can manufacture guys in, and you're going out and getting a retreaded D-Hop. To me, it just seems like you're like you said, you're kind of in panic mode. And we've talked about this in our past episode where Brad is probably going to sit back, especially with the injury to Aiden Hutchinson, and say, you're going to watch my team go out in slaughter mode, and nobody's going to come to the table trading with us thinking they're going to get one over on us, thinking that they need to make this trade because they're literally a defensive end away from losing the game. Not when you're winning by 30-some points. Not when your running back is throwing touchdowns. So I don't think it's going to be like the Chiefs. I feel like we're going to get better. We're going to win the trade. It's going to be a trade where it's impactful because Davante Adams to the Jets is a waste of time. It's a media headline. D-Hop to the Chiefs is a wasted media headline from 3 years ago. What's the hot line right now in the NFL? There is nothing. There's no big players moving to big teams. The Dolphins suck, right? If you look at some of the best teams right now, it's like the Commanders, the Lions. What was the other few teams I saw? Not your standard high market team with players, right? All your big name players are on teams that suck right now. So what does that say for the Lions? We're the team that everybody wants to come to, right? And if the rest of them suck, right, you're not going to try and get, no one's looking to go to the Commanders and be into that unknown culture. This is the team that every freaking player in the league wants to come to.
Yeah, I don't think
Believe it or not.
Nobody's going to get mad when they're traded to the Lions. It's not like, God damn it, I got to go to the Jets. They just fired their head coach. Aaron Rodgers steals all the thunder, and he's a fucking weirdo. No one's going to be mad if it's Max Crosby, if it's Young, if it's any of the names that were floated around. Even like I said, names we haven't heard.
Let's just say, though,
go from Philadelphia to Detroit, or go from Arizona to Detroit, go from the Raiders to Detroit. That player's not going to be mad about it. I just don't see a big blockbuster move happening.
Name another team that has the leverage, the ability, the culture to bring in a big player. The NFL is desperate for a big player news. They've struck out on Devontae Adams. They're striking out on all these headlines, dude. The NFL almost, if you want to believe there's a freaking script, the NFL is going to push something to happen. Dan Campbell, I don't care. He was giddy. That was something different. I'm just going to call it right now. So I just feel like, what's another team right now that has a really good story besides the Lions? Best offense, doing things crazy, awesome culture. Hutchinson on the monitor at Ford Field. Oh my God, dude. How do you not love that? Last year it was Taylor Swift up there in the booth. Now it's Hutchinson. See, this is why I'm telling you. The storybook is perfect, Pitch. We've replaced Taylor Swift now with Aiden Hutchinson. Thank God the NFL's been saved.
There is no team on the upswing like the Lions for the last at least 2 years. There is no team with the roster construction and the depth that the Lions have. So when going back to saying who could swing a trade for a big name, I pulled up a list. I'm not saying that these teams are on the upswing. I'm not saying they're desirable destinations for anybody, but you have the Panthers with 10 draft picks in the upcoming draft. You have,
oh, Jesus Christ.
You have the Eagles, the
I already
Jets,
told you
and
they
the
should be out of the
Jaguars with
NFL.
9. Yeah, and then the other
The
team
Jaguars are on their way to England.
You asked who had the capital, and I'm telling you who has the most draft picks.
It's the swag. It's the desire.
I mean, Eagles might feel like they're still in it.
They want their head coach put in the river.
Browns are out of it, but they got 8. The Bills have been active, and they
Bills,
also have
okay.
8 picks.
There you
so
go.
I could see
There
the
you go.
Bills. I could see the Bills trying to do something bigger than average.
Bills are a team that have bigger than average ability.
49ers have 8 draft picks.
Man, they're decimated. They have to do something. They're decimated.
They're decimated like the Chiefs. They're decimated like the Chiefs are, and they have the capital to do it. They're still a pretty good team.
So we're deep while the whole NFL's decimated, man. Like even the Ravens, their defense is sketchy at best. I'm not going to disrespect the Ravens, but I'm saying there's some weakness.
Yeah,
now, we have a weakness, and it's in the pass rush. And we're seeing our linebackers make up for it in the short term with quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph. But here's the big question. Who are we going to see this week, Hitch? Is it going to be Jordan Love or is it Malik Willis?
Well, let's hope it's Malik Willis, but I'm not
Malik
scared
Willis
of Love.
just won, and he seems to have some Matt Flynn Packers magic, right?
Bring it on, man. 100 times out
I
of 100.
love your attitude.
Bring it on. 100 times out of 100. I'm not scared of either of them, really, but you asked me to choose. It's Willis, right? I mean, we remember when he was coming in to spell Tannehill for the Titans. You remember back when everybody wanted, not everybody, but there's a rumor that Detroit coveted him, that Detroit was going to take QB and work to move on from Goff. And that was that just absolute terrible, downtrodden dog shit year of a quarterback class. And he's hot garbage. He's every bit as shitty as the rest of them. I don't care what he did last week. Fuck him. Fuck all Packers, but in particular, fuck their quarterbacks and fuck their quarterback situation that they've prospered in for the last 50 years. But bring on either of them. Pass rush or not, I don't care. We'll intercept them both.
What if the Packers signed Jay Cutler to come back just to play the Lions?
I would be forced to burn all Cutler attire. I'd be forced to sever all ties.
I really hope he's not watching this episode.
You can't root for Green Bay.
Dude, I just needed the world to see the passion that I've always seen in you when it comes to the Lions.
It's a lot easier
but
talk
seriously,
like this
you're
when
right.
They're this good.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I think we all want to see Malik Willis, but this is one of those games where I want us to be laser focused. It's going to be every bit of fun coming off that Tennessee Titans win if you're the Lions, especially with it being at home. But I trust every bit that this locker room has taken this game because, man, every division game you got to play almost like it's a championship game because There's so much more riding on the game than just the game. If we go 6-2, is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. The whole schedule is very winnable.
I think the NFL predicted we'll be 12-2 down the line for the most part. But this isn't the game I think we get our second loss on. I don't really see that because I feel like we still have the momentum burning, right? We have elevated linebacker play. This is why I texted you and said you're a what did I call you?
Oh, a prophet.
A prophet.
I was wondering what you meant by that, actually.
I just wanted to say you've hit so much on how important the linebacker play is going to be to step into keeping the momentum going with the defense, right? The secondary conversation we had, we beat pretty good, but I like what I'm seeing from these linebackers that really have no name. They're rookies. You've already highlighted it so well, so I'm trying to summarize it, but just guys that did well in camp, guys that showed up, guys that got the typical speech of, "Hey, when your moment comes up, shine." And they're doing it, right? I'm loving it, but really I just feel like this is one of those games where maybe the score isn't 52, 48, 34, you know what I mean?
I mean, they're not all going to be like this. We have the ability to drop that at anybody given the right opportunity, the execution, the mistakes from the opposing defense. But you're correct. This run of 40 to 50 points a game isn't always going to be the case. And shit, we'll lose games this year. We're going to lose another game. It's almost a foregone conclusion. But, you know, these linebackers have kept us in it. They've done what they have been asked to do, and they've excelled. Two guys that weren't on this team and probably weren't really contributing on any other team last year came up huge in this win against the Titans. The one thing with this linebacker core, and I'm trying to Google it without being too distracted, but what's going on with Rodriguez's injury?
See, what I heard was that it wasn't, anything to worry about season ending, anything broken, just that it seems like you're going to get a game time call, but I can't, let's look that up right now while you're talking.
Yeah. I mean, you lose Rico in a regular scenario, you lose a little depth, you lose his ability to make some plays on special teams, but you're talking about a defense down Hutchinson, down Barnes. Even though these kids are stepping up, these new linebackers that we've elevated are stepping up, you'd hate to go into any game at this point down another linebacker, even if it is just 1 week or 2 weeks.
And that's what it looks like it's going to be, man. If it's anything, it's going to be 1 week. They said he aggravated an old ankle injury from college. So it sounds like they're going to play the coy game of saying you don't know who's going to be at linebacker. So put him on the questionable list, but they put him for sure for week 10.
Well, and while we're talking about dropping 40 and 50 plus points on teams, I am getting a little antsy in these fourth quarters. You saw Goff getting his ankle taped up. You saw Hendon coming in. I think Hendon probably should have come in sooner. You see Hutch eviscerating his leg when we're already got a healthy lead, I believe, against Dallas. At what point, as a Lions fan, are you thinking, give Reynolds the ball, get Hendon Hooker in, take St. Brown out, get Goff with the headset on? At what point is enough?
I think they did the right point. I mean, this is kind of one of those going for it on fourth down calls where, I mean, if you pull them out too early and Tennessee starts to get a little bit of momentum, are you going to come out as you're super cocky and you're too? I mean, the narrative can go both ways. I think at the end of the day, his ankle's fine. He's a freaking pro football player. He's a pocket style, somewhat passing quarterback. So he's going to get collapsed on when he gets collapsed on. They're all taped up. They're all covered in ice. I mean, that's a player's, an athlete's body. Football, baseball, basketball, soccer. Dude, even my almost 13-year-old son is wrapped up in ice when he comes home from a soccer game. So I don't really worry too much about it, man, because his production doesn't stagger. His confidence wasn't busted. His glow wasn't shattered. I think that's just somebody reaching for a story.
I don't know, man. It just makes me nervous when we're up by 30 and seeing these guys that are so pivotal to everything that we're doing right now still on the field. That's my point is, what happened to Hutchinson.
A fair point, but not a bad worry to have. If that's our main worry right now at week, 7, week 8,
yeah,
week 9. I mean, that's if that's what you're worrying about at this point of the season, that's okay. I mean, that's every team. Look at the Texans, dude. They just lost Stephon Diggs for the entire year. He's on
but did Stephon Diggs, it was a non-contact injury to his knee, and did it happen, though, when the Bills were up by, or not the Bills, the Texans were up by 40 points?
It happened, and he's out for the season. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Saying,
and it's football.
I'm just saying mitigate some of that potential disaster by getting some of these guys out of the game when you're already clearly heading to a victory. You got Frank Ragnar taped together with a foot so bummed that they can't even repair it. Let that guy sit down. Let him sit. Think about it this way. What happened to Hutchinson was catastrophic. A little bit of a fluke, maybe. But if this happens to McNeil, if this happens to Jack Campbell or Branch, any of these guys that are just making plays week in and week out, if this happens again, who knows if we can weather another huge loss. And if it happens when we're up by 30, I'm going to be sorely disappointed. I understand if it happens when you got to get that pressure, when the game is in the air, or up in the air, when there might only be a 10-point lead, let's say. Yeah, keep playing, man. But we have some pretty good contributors on this team that could use more reps. We have some pivotal linchpin style veterans that we can't afford to lose and that aren't easy to replace. Just get them out of the game when you're up like this. It's not Madden. You're not trying to see if you can throw for 7,000 yards in a season with Jared Goff. Get him out. Let him sit. Get Ragnar off that foot. Let him sit. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I know I get your point. All I'm trying to say is that it's an okay thing to be worried about. It's nothing unusual. It's a healthy conversation and a healthy thing to be worried about. We can't come at this cocky and arrogant, so I get it. It's valid. I mean, I'll tell you what, if we're in that position again against the Packers and we're up 30, I'll be the first one to agree with you and say it's time to go, right? That it's not like we've got years of doing this, is all I'm saying. So give them that one exciting home game. And the Tennessee Titans weren't making it easy. They were just giving the game away. That was just wild. But let's look at the Packers, man. This is a team right now where we just talked about Malik Willis being the quarterback. Let's just say we potentially think that's going to happen with Jordan Love's groin injury. And they're being held together by Josh Jacobs, who I've always viewed as a really nice kind of Darren McFadden style running back, stand up, run through the hole. Something I think we do a pretty good job at defending with Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader. I mean, we talk about the pass rush being less than ideal right now because of Hutch being out. But what about these big, nasty D tackles in the middle and these Jack Campbell linebackers? We're facing a team that just wants to run the ball.
Yeah, we're built to face a team like Green Bay, right? We have outside corners now. You got the Branch thing going on. You got the Kirby Joseph thing going on. They want to throw on us because their receivers are like these high draft pick. I keep hearing high ceiling, but it's got to be a low floor, right? These guys just never. They kind of take turns week in and week out, stepping up. Who's their tight end that's had two big weeks back to back? Young guy. I keep wanting to say Kraft. I don't think it's Kraft. But they have a good tight end. So what? We got good linebackers. We got good safeties. They got okay wide receivers. We have better corners. Maybe it's my ignorance, but I couldn't necessarily name one defensive lineman or pass rushing specialist in Green Bay, but if I'm drawing a blank on something I should know, I don't care because we have the best offensive line in football. I don't think I'm being cocky or arrogant. I'm just seeing what I'm seeing and seeing how that translates to playing good teams, right? And we're matched up to play anybody. If it's Dontrell Willis, even better. But this team has to show me that we're not favored and going to be a viable candidate to get a big win every week.
I think this is a first, Hitch, where you literally crossed and butchered a player's name that you've said right for the last 10 times.
What did I do now?
Crossed it over into a sport for a player.
What did I do now? It's because I'm trying
Dontrell Willis.
Oh God, the gas can from Miami and Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hard throwing lefty.
Oh my God. Okay, so as you were talking,
he's the one that famously he famously missed time in Detroit for anxiety in his blood. Remember?
Oh my Lord! Yeah, that was.
Hey, we had to get Miggy somehow. That was good. That was a classic.
There you go. Glad
so I was looking up the receiver, and it's
Tucker Kraft. You're right.
Kraft.
He has been the most productive receiver. He's got 5 touchdowns.
Yep.
But as far as
5 touchdowns, and I think 4 of them came in the last 2 weeks.
But from a receiving core, scoring points, he is who they've gone to the most, is what I'm saying. It's their tight end.
Yep.
You've got Reed and Dobbs with 3 and 2 touchdowns. Watson's got 2. Dix. These are the wide receivers you were just referencing, the low ceiling, waiting for them to do something. And they can. They have these flashes, especially Watson. Right?
I forgot about Reed, too.
But when I'm looking at these stats, man,
Reed's good.
He's got the long ones. I mean, he's your big one. He's your yak monster, right?
Yep.
He's
what we have a couple of.
We said it before that he's like the Golden Tate style of wide receiver. I think we praised him earlier on in this season.
You did. I think it was the first or second episode you talked highly of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
a valid point. But when we're looking at Malik Willis, not Dontrell Willis, he's 29 of 39, 74% completion, 380 yards. I mean, really 3 touchdowns.
The guy's just a handoff machine. So in an ideal state,
that's who we play. But
and they had a nail biter.
Where we're at.
They had a nail biter with who last week? Was it Jacksonville?
Dude, yeah, that's where I really thought Jacksonville would get that win.
So if you're slipping by Jacksonville, right, and you have to throw the whole kitchen sink at the Lions because Dan Campbell said that's what teams are going to do to us this year. They're going to throw the whole freaking kitchen sink at us just to feast on what we got. But let me look at Jordan Love.
If Willis
has a chance to play for the Lions, right? That's what they're going to say. High level of concern. Yeah, right now we'll see.
If we're talking about Willis having a good game, let's remember it was against Jacksonville.
Yeah,
I guess you're right. I guess I'm playing the
pessimistic a little too hard
on this one. But
one of us
I don't know.
has to.
It's Green Bay, dude. Yeah, you're right. One of us has to. But it's just Green Bay. We're playing at Green Bay, too. We're not playing at Ford Field, which is interesting and nice because I don't know. I guess I'd have to check with the Bears, but we've got all of our divisional games at home on the back end of the season. We're playing them round 2, which is nice.
Sure.
Nice advantage. We normally don't get that advantage.
Yeah, we said it last week. We have to go into Lambeau once a year. We know that's a fact. I would rather go into Lambeau coming off of a couple of weeks like we've just had, and it's still just, what is it going to be, November 2nd or 3rd? I would rather go into Lambeau in November than December.
And they're going right into their bye week after that. So say what you want about what that mindset tells you, but I feel like you could also see a team that, granted, they're 6-2, might be in a early vacation mode. I'm not saying that's happened. That's just an option. It's It's a theory you could float around too.
I mean,
To be
they're
the
beat
optimistic.
up. If they're a little
and
beat
they're
up, if they're a little beat up, and then you've seen what we do to teams, it's becoming a thing in the NFL, like with this storybook that you're talking about, where I believe all but one team that we beat have gone out and just laid another egg. It's like, are we beating up teams that bad?
I'm glad you brought that up. It's called the Honolulu flu, is what I found out. According to the internet.com, that's what people are calling it. Essentially, when you play the Lions, and I think it's every team since we played the Bucks, obviously.
It didn't apply to
exhaust
Dallas.
Yourself.
It didn't apply to Dallas because I think Dallas was on a bye after we played them or something. That's the only way that we couldn't see what would happen. One of these teams that we crushed had a bye right after us.
Well, the concept being, after playing the Lions, they're exhausted.
Yes.
Right? So they're basically going to play us and get a goose egg and then get another goose egg. Double gooses.
Yeah.
So let's see if that theory comes true. I mean, Tennessee, I guess, isn't a fair one to throw out there, but who knows?
Who are you looking to be the game changer? If this goes south for us, why?
If this goes south for us because we didn't establish the running game early enough like we need to. That's our big mistake that we made during the Buccaneers game. We came out too pass happy, too shotgunny, too looking to do fun things. So you have to come out and diligently run the ball. There needs to be somebody. I don't think these linebackers can go on long enough putting up the sack numbers. There needs to be a little bit of QB pressure hitch. I really need Pasquale to live up to the hype that a lot of people have been throwing out there. I need to see a 2-sack game, dude. We need that. We need to see a 2-sack game from our defensive ends in some form of combination. Appreciated Anzalone. Appreciated Rodrigo. I really, really appreciated, Jack Campbell. But, dude, that is where the Achilles heel, and it's not just the Hutch injury, because even when he was on the team, we needed that extra pass rush because when he's out there, he's getting doubled. So it's still the same Achilles heel, Hitch. It really is. It's the pass rush.
I think Pasquale has done a nice job. I really do. He was a little bit of a wild card only because he was hurt his first year. We haven't seen him play a lot because of Hutch. Brought in Davenport. He played his 2 weeks and looked pretty good till he got 86. But I think he stepped up. And it's not translating to sacks, but we've said it before and we'll keep saying it. It doesn't have to translate to sacks. It can translate to quarterback hurries, quarterback hits. It can translate to being a presence in the run game. As long as somebody is setting that edge, it helps out everybody. And I think that he has done a quiet, nice job. And I say quiet, he's been on the stat sheet every week. Nobody's going to do what Hutchinson did. Even if Davenport was healthy and 22 years old, he's not going to do what Hutchinson was doing week in and week out. There's been a lot of guys, linebackers being most of them, stepping up to try to cover this void or fill this void, but I think he's been doing a nice job. And it would be nice to see him get into the backfield and get on that sheet a couple times. That would be awesome. It would be awesome for anybody. But I don't want to overlook Pasquale because I do feel like as a second-round pick, a little bit of a project player, I think he was second round. What would he have been, like 15th pick of the second round maybe? Should be a starting guy, is a starting guy, but nobody is going to replace Hutchinson.
I think it's, obviously the only one that you could replace is the Max Crosby trade. Isaiah Williams, isn't that who we got from Cleveland's practice squad or
linebackers, pass rusher, or edge type guy.
I mean, that's really dude. I'm looking at the roster right now, and you say Pasquale, but who else could you pick, right? there's a lot of the guys are going to play on the inside of more of your traditional D tackles. So that is our edge pressure right now, unless we go out and get somebody or do something. Your list of names of guys is very small just because of like James Houston inconsistencies of injuries, and someone's got to step up, man. And I guess I'm calling for Josh Pasquale because he's got the highest pre-draft ceiling, but somebody out there, Mr. Prophet. I mean, come on. Who do you think you've called out? Tim Patrick, you've called out the little nuances of the success of like Nowaski, the linebacker, or who is it? Is it Pasquale? Is that who you really, in your almighty hitch heart, think it is?
If Pasquale,
I want you to
healthy,
close your eyes, pretend you're sitting at Monty's Cafe, you got a carton of cigarettes in front of you, and the waitress just said, "We just made fresh coffee." You're in your zone.
I think the obvious answer, week in and week out without Hutch, especially if we don't bring somebody in, is going to be Pasquale. With Rodriguez potentially being out for at least this game, I would look for Reeves-Maybin to get some meaningful defensive snaps and maybe do something with those. Every time the guy has had an opportunity, he doesn't necessarily disappoint.
That's a good point.
You got to remember when he was here the first time and left, I believe, for Houston, he went over to Houston in a rotational starting role.
Yeah.
He put up okay numbers as a starter. He's, I believe, our special teams captain. I feel like he's a half a second on his 40 or maybe a couple big turnovers early in his career away from contributing as a starter on somebody's team. If I had to go dark horse, it would be him. I feel like if the snap counts increase, he'll take that opportunity and do something special. Don't ask me what, but who knows? I mean, we know the stat sheet: pass deflection, forced fumble recovery, a couple big tackles for a loss, something like that is very doable for a guy like him if his numbers go up.
I apologize. It was Isaiah Thomas that we got from the Cleveland Browns. I should know. I've got a bunch of Isaiah Thomas stuff right behind me.
A bad boy.
Yeah, a bad boy indeed. Reeves-Maybin, man, he kind of fits the bill. He stepped up last year in some big opportunities. I guess let's be thankful that we've got those group of corners, dude. Robinson with his 2 punch outs, that seems to be his thing, right? Brian Branch with his interceptions, Robertson with his punch outs. I love to see Davis just continue to be an undenied ball hawk. He's getting his hand in everything. Terrion Arnold has chilled, like we said. He's got the respect of the refs. How ironic that last year the secondary was our weak point, and it seems to be our strongest point. I guess it's not ironic. We put a ton of resources into
how
it,
weird.
Right?
How weird is it to actually have a regime behind the scenes that can see what's wrong, and they have the pocketbook and the cachet to go out and immediately improve that via draft and free agency, right? Branch and Joseph.
Well, they didn't even need to use the pocketbook, Hitch. They have it, but they didn't need to. I mean, they did pay fair market value, but yeah, it's not like we went out and signed a over the edge corner to a Revis style contract, right? When he left.
Yeah.
We just went out and got fair market value for really good players and drafted really well.
Let me clarify what I meant with this having the pocketbook to do so. There's some teams that in this league that aren't bad. There's some teams in this league that not so long ago were very good. And if you look at some of the things that they have in common, it's going to be that they're all playing over the cap. You know, look at the Saints. The Saints have been over the cap. I believe Denver is over the cap. The fucking shit show of the Browns are over the cap. We know why.
The show of the Rams are over the cap. Oh my God, dude. They're trying to melt that down, but they keep winning.
Yeah. Our window is as open as it has ever been. Our drafting has been stellar. Our free agent acquisitions have, for the most part, panned out. And we put together this roster a lot of these dudes that we talk about week in and week out, playmaking ball hawks that are winning us games, we still have a fifth-year option of control on some of these guys. Branch, I believe Joseph.
Well, and
It's
look at
just
the
unreal.
assets you said. You said the pocketbook, but I didn't think about it like this. We also have the pocketbook flexibility to lock guys up like a Lee McNeil to where they don't have to play this whole tug of war game. David Montgomery, we can get guys paid and get it fair and not have to make it some emotional, decision. I mean, it's just offering the flexibility to win games and let the guys get paid. And this is a player-driven league. Most sports is now, anyways, right? We've seen it with the NBA. They make their super teams. We've seen it in the NFL where the players, they get to dictate for the most part where they're going to get traded. That's why I'm telling you right now, man. A little bit. Not as obvious as other teams, but okay. Devontae Adams was pretty damn obvious. Aaron Rodgers was pretty damn obvious, right? Matt Stafford was pretty damn obvious. There might be a trade coming up, and I know I said to Smith, but now that we're podcasting, now that we're talking, I'm really thinking that the NFL is saying, we need a good fucking story, man. Let's push for something to happen. Let's a little collusion.
I'm glad that you brought up the restructuring that they've already done. As far as I'm aware, just Montgomery and not Reader. McNeil.
Well, you got St. Brown. He's locked up, and he doesn't. He's not the highest paid wide receiver anymore because that just changes every 5 minutes.
With the restructuring that has happened in the past few weeks during season, when that started happening, I started thinking, why are they doing this? And on surface, right? And sometimes things really are only surface deep, but on the surface, you're looking at, do they have motivation to lock these guys down? Yes. These guys are good. They're awesome. McNeil's coming into his own. He's staying healthy. He's the force that we drafted him to be finally. But underneath this, is there an ulterior motive? And potentially the ulterior motive is to clean up more cap space to do something big. Now, again, I do too. I don't think that they're going to do anything big, but have they set the table to do so if the opportunity arises? You can't help but wonder. You lock down some good dudes, that's great. Good move for the future, but is there an ulterior motive here?
So have they been setting us up the whole time for an October surprise? Irregardless of a Hutchinson injury, were they just planning on making that last minute end of October, holy shit, let's wake up, and did you see what the Lions did? No freaking way. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that they've set the table to be able to do that if they want to. They have.
But our plates on the table. Are people invited? Is there food? Are we eating your chili?
If it goes back to that adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They don't have to do anything. It's unfortunate that we lost Hutch. It's unfortunate, even though it was a risk-reward scenario with Davenport. It's unfortunate that he got hurt. It's unfortunate anytime anybody gets hurt. But with all of that being said, they're leaving all options open. They have the cap space and the draft capital and even some depth on the roster to do whatever they want. If you woke up tomorrow and heard that Tyreek Hill was a Detroit Lion or what have you, a player of that caliber, would you be surprised?
I mean, wide receiver would be the only position I would be shocked at, that we would go out and do something.
Not me, really. Not one bit, no. When this season started, that was the knock. Before the injuries, before the unforeseen, the story was Detroit did everything right except they don't really have that steady third or fourth wide receiver. Now we've had the emergence of Tim Patrick, which is great. The guy's awesome. And let's not jinx it, but back-to-back catastrophic injuries. He could drop with a non-contact just like your boy Diggs at any point.
You're making great points, and you're countering them with shit I brought up. So honestly, you're right.
I guess when I say Brad Holmes is Batman, maybe you're right. That's a viable option. Like this almost is like Christmas Eve. And I know the deadline isn't tomorrow, but in the same sense of like we could wake up and see, that we got the G.I. Joe freaking Battleship Destroyer, right?
Are we getting the Red Rider or the bowling ball? Both fun, both serve a very distinct purpose, but which one is it?
Yeah, bowling balls. Hey, I got a bowling ball. Great. Big whoop.
Yeah.
Well, that's a valid point. I mean, I think we both agree we're primed to do something. They're not going to sit tight. There's just no way we sit tight. I felt a little bit more confident in us sitting tight maybe last week. But I think time and really like we're talking right now, like thinking like Brad, what would Brad do? The little hints they do, the little shirts he wears, the little Easter eggs that he peppers in. He's so obvious about what he's going to do, and yet he still shocks the world when he does things. So I think if we keep that mindset, which you've been doing a really good job of keeping us involved in, we'll stay true to Brad Holmes.
Brad has poised himself to be able to do anything on a wide spectrum, and this spectrum ranges from nothing at all to shock the world, never saw this coming, solidifies this team in a way that we didn't know we needed. But he set the table to take an opportunity if it's presented to him.
Oh, that's a valid point. Hey, did you see, I know you're a big special teams guy, did you see who they gave the other game ball to?
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Dude, what did you think? What did you think of that coach's, the special teams coach? Hold on, I'm looking him up. I should have looked this up before I asked you.
Pip or Kip or something like that.
Holy crap, man, dude. He looks Dave Phipp. Came from the Philadelphia Eagles, Dolphins, 49ers, fucking Albuquerque, New Mexico boy.
You got to wonder if he was on the Dolphin staff with Campbell.
I would assume so. That's their link. But, dude, what a guy. What a little mini Campbell. I mean, he's like 130 pounds and 5'4", but when he talks, he's bigger than Dan Campbell. How sweet was that?
He was so fired up, man.
Fired, and it's so authentic too. Like now you get why guys are literally breaking records to play with this guy,
breaking limbs to play for this guy.
Yeah,
it was cool to just hear somebody so intentfully just scream at the top of his lungs, "I love football."
Yeah.
I felt like I was the only one.
No, that was really cool. I don't think you see too many teams give their special teams coordinator the game ball. But
in talking about game ball and everything that gets out, some of it put out by the Lions, some of this other content that is being created that everybody's following. This team, they just can't do wrong, right? Like, when do you remember today at my office, I had a 15-minute long conversation with my executive director, with another one of our directors, both 40-something-year-old women. Granted, they followed the Lions for a long time, but they're sitting around talking about watching Campbell hand out the game ball week in and week out and how it's one of their favorite parts of Sunday or Monday or Thursday. That it's just, there's so much to this team that we can watch and enjoy. It's not, if I lived in Dallas during the golden years, do you remember Jimmy Johnson giving these impassioned game ball speeches? No,
you're right. I see where you're going, and you're spot on with this. That is my favorite thing to do, to the point where I was laying in bed and it's just like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have to watch the speech, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm waiting for it, because that's almost even more exciting than the win. Is, okay, what's the locker room going to be like? I mean, you're right. It's like everybody wants to be in that locker room. Now imagine if you're a player that has leverage and you're like, you're going to put me in that locker room. Last week, I went out there and said I want to wear these colors to the day I die. But look what we just did last week.
Yeah. And look what they just
did. You owe it to me, dude. Yeah, exactly. Look what they just did. You owe it to me. one of the Stafford things. I've been nice. I've played PR. I've invested in the town. But
I tattooed you on my body.
You're going to get me to that team. And it works out best for both of us. And I know it's going to piss your fans off, but you already do a good enough job doing that without me.
I'll go as far as saying if Crosby comes here, if Crosby,
I didn't say a name.
Right. If somebody like Crosby comes here, I would not be at all surprised, and almost part of me would expect to see the information, the news break on, let's say, a Monday, and by Tuesday or Wednesday, seeing and reading that headline of player like Crosby restructures deal.
Oh, 100%. Because of, not only you're not chasing the Patriots on their last 2 years, you're going, no, this is what I thought I was going to do here, is build something for my career. And, money's great, but look at some of these players that I just want to go win a chip, right? Like, just get me, obviously you're going to get me paid, but
they do it every year. Von Miller and Ndamukong Suh, they do it.
That's my point, right?
Odell Beckham sits back and waits till he can see who's going to be in the playoffs every year.
He's probably waiting on an indictment, but we'll worry about Odell Beckham later. But that's my point, Hitch, is what I'm saying. Remember when everybody 2-3 years ago had to play for the Eagles?
Right.
There was like a line outdoor of aged veterans or veterans that used their BD energy leverage to a crappy organization and said, get me the fuck out of here, right? Like, that hasn't happened yet. D-Hop leaving Tennessee wasn't, a hold-up. I didn't even look at that linebacker, Yunka from New England. Everybody wants out of New England, right? Like, what's the big whoop? But there is always a get me out of here player. Or what's the vet that's sitting at home right now that you're talking about? I don't even know who that is right now. Who's sitting on their couch like Sue, waiting for week 8, 9, or 10?
There's got to be somebody. I don't know. While we were chatting earlier, I tried to pull up a list of free agent defensive ends, but I can't find anything that isn't talking about signings. I'm on Walter Football, and they're talking about AJ Espinoza going to the Bills. They're talking about, Brandon Graham with the Eagles re-signing. I'm trying to find first name I recognize on this, or first name I see on this list that is unsigned to my knowledge. Yannick Ngakoue. I guess I remember that name. Coming off a dreadful season, but
I'm looking at your best option. The names are nothing. I see a Shaq Leonard. From a cornerback standpoint, there's guys, there's aging veterans, there's your Patrick Petersons.
Yeah, Shaq Lawson.
Your Micah Hydes and your safety.
That's what I'm saying, though. The defensive end position doesn't have an Ndamukong Suh sitting at home. Doesn't have, everybody when they signed up to play for the Eagles or the Bills.
No, because if you're if you're a good pass rushing, sack generating specialist, you're on a team. You're getting
exactly.
Paid. Yeah,
exactly. So we'll see where it goes. Pat McAfee was trying to convince J.J. Watt to come out of retirement and play, but he highlighted that it's it's the place to be. So I think we'll see. We got the Packers. You and I both think it's going to be a W. I know all the fans out there think it's going to be a W. Whether it's Malik Willis, Jordan Love, I think the key is going to be stopping the run game for the Packers. And our run game needs to continue to show up in the first 5 minutes. Slow start may it be because you're on the road at Lambeau. It's loud. The defense, we highlighted safeties, corners, continue doing what you're doing, forcing turnovers. Linebackers, we really need your help this week, stepping up in the sack game. And Pasquale and Reeves-Maybin, I need you guys off the edge. I need you guys really stepping it up on the stat line, whether it be hurries, whether you're muddling the pocket. Now, obviously, that also depends on the quarterback of where the pocket is and who we're playing. Hitch, we summed it up this week.
One more question before we're right at the hour mark. You so eloquently said what we need to do to win this game. If we go north and the game goes south, who on Green Bay beats us?
Who on Green Bay beats us? It's going to be one of those 3 wide receivers that we discussed. I mean, we saw that shakiness with Tennessee's kind of empty yards that they put up, although maybe meaningless. Tell me that wasn't a breakdown in pass coverage. That wasn't a breakdown in assignments. Like, that exposed a little shakiness. So I think if it's going to be anything, you're going to see one of their 3 wide receivers. Christian Watson, for some reason, likes to catch big passes over the top on us.
That's all he does. Him. Yeah. See, now I think it's
going to be one of those.
I think it's going to be Jacobs. If it happens, it's Jacobs. If we find a way to shut down Jacobs, it's going to be Reed. I think Jacobs and Reed are all they have that are consistently performing.
Fair enough. But let's just assume our boys are going to do the job. And are you not drinking a rock tonight? What's up with that?
I ran out of rock, so I had to go with my second choice here.
What is that?
Little Canadian action. It's hockey season.
Michelob? Molson. Okay. Well, we won't get into the Red Wings too much, but I hope next week you'll be back into your rock mode.
Oh, I'm still in rock mode, but I'm making do with what I got.
That's all you can do in these trying times, Hitch.
Yeah, times get rough.
All right, well, let's say goodnight to everybody and thank everybody. The podcast is getting some traction. The YouTube account saw some subscribers jump up. The TikTok continues to blow up. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. To like it, to subscribe. The Spotify, keep liking the Spotify. What do you got, Hitch? What's your last words?
I'm just loving it, man. It's week in and week out. This takes a little more work than people might realize to put together. And some nights I'm thinking, oh, let's just get in, do a quick one. But we always end up having a blast. We're at an hour 2 right now. We both got fired up. It's been a lot of fun, and it's easy. It's made easy because these guys are just so fun to watch, man. And hear this, may not be this week, but Ben Johnson, I believe, is committed to getting Penei Sewell a touchdown. So if you want to go stack up some parlays, build your own, get a little crafty, put Jared Goff like plus 10 rushing yards and put Penei Sewell touchdown and call me when you win like $2,000.
That's not a bad idea. I think I might start taking you up on some of these tips.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, same bat time, same bat channel. Everybody have a lovely night and do what you always do.
Deuces.
Peace.